NuPhy's latest keyboard in the Halo lineup is hands down my favorite release of this year. It's a Hall effect keyboard with a futuristic industrial aesthetic, giving us pops of orange with a metallic and white look. It does feature an aluminium top housing and the ABS bottom. We have a very tasteful RGB light bar on the top left, underglow, and this thin strip around the sides, and the subtle Halo65 in the top right. Around the edges, we do have the odd choice of phrases like focus on the fun and function, or captain on the bridge, like okay, sure. On the bottom we have some branding. We also have the silicone feet which lays flat at 5 degrees, the smaller feet at 8.5 degrees, and the full size at 12 degrees. The PBT keycaps are very nice. They feel smooth and have very solid and striking legends, but only on some of the keys. There's quite a few spots where it's either a weird size or thickness with some issues on the centering. They still work, and this is more of a nitpick of course, but the most important will be its features and the internals. Now on the back we do have the Type-C input and an option of different preset modes. One's going to be for Mac, one for Windows, and the last being for gaming, which does only disable the Windows key to avoid accidental actuations, but it does have a hidden feature which I'll touch on later. Now inside the build we do have the Gateron Jade Pros. These switches are so good, with the closed bottom, a good amount of factory lube, a tighter housing, and solid bottom out. There is also a different variant of this board which comes with their own switches in collaboration with Gateron called the Coral switches. Now I can't speak on those, but the Jades are such an easy pick considering the dampening of this whole board. Now for the dampening system we do have 2 layers of Poron, an aluminium plate, and an anechoic silicone sheet in the base. NuPhy also has their own stabilizers and a system called the Ghost Spacebar, which has 2 silicone pads placed underneath the spacebar with a silicone insert into which the switch's stems go into. It works brilliantly, and it is available as a separate purchase if you want it implemented into a different keyboard. Now as for the performance side of it, we do have an 8000Hz polling rate PCB, which in theory is supposed to give us lower input latency. But I do feel personally on current keyboards it's just a placebo thing considering we already have rapid trigger and different actuation points to change how our keystrokes are registered. Everything can be adjusted on their WebDriver, which is extremely impressive. On the first page we have the keybinds, but as soon as you right click on one of those keys you unlock advanced options. We have the option of dynamic keystrokes. This is a very niche feature. When you do actuate one key you can also change it to have up to 4 different functions, 2 for downstroke and 2 for upstroke, which would act as macros or healing or looting or whatever your use case would be. It's good but nothing I'd personally use specifically. Next is Mod Tap. This is a feature that I use on the Wooting 60HE. This basically allows you to set 2 different actions on one single key. So for example when you tap it, it could act as an arrow key, and when you hold it, it acts as the original intended key. Now toggle key is up next, which is basically how caps lock works. You press the key and it stays on, you press it again and it turns off. Also a very niche function. Now rapid shift is next. When having more than one key actuated at the same time, it reads which key has been actuated the furthest and registers that one. SOCD is now a banned feature in some games, which goes hand in hand with their hyper tap feature. It does automatically actuate another button when one stops triggering. This paired with a very low actuation setting on rapid trigger can lead to games like CS and Valorant having an instant crosshair reset when counter-strafing, which is a skill that some perfected over years of experience when playing. But in Overwatch it can just give the opportunity to spam strafes insanely fast, making it way harder to hit. Now on the trigger settings tab we do have the actuations and the rapid trigger, but you can also choose which switches are currently in your keyboard, so the readouts and the settings are more accurate and compatible with your configuration. It's pretty limited at the moment, but it is such a good feature to have. We do also have dead zones, which can be set to prevent accidental triggers, but that also just depends on your rapid trigger sensitivity and your actuation points, which can be set all the way down to 0.1mm for actuation and 0.02mm for rapid trigger reset and reactuation. Last but not least, we do have the macros, lighting effects, and the settings, which has game optimization auto enabled, and you can also choose if you want to have delay added to your board. It's basically debounce on a mouse. We do have a setting that also reads inputs from more wobbly stem switches and of course the polling rate. I do keep it on 8K Hz as it came out of the box. Now earlier I did mention we have the mode switches for Windows, Mac and gaming. These can also be changed to accommodate specific profiles for specific games. So one potentially for Apex Legends, one for CS, and one for OSU, just as examples. Overall, I'm such a massive fan of this keyboard. It is honestly the easiest recommendation I have for anybody that wants to get into performance keyboards without that premium price tag. Now, the only other issue I have found is when you do use a custom coiled cable, it could be a bit on the heavier side, especially when you do have the keyboard tilted up to 12.5 degrees. And this does cause some disconnections. It does suck, but it's honestly nothing to fuss about considering the included cable is perfectly fine. Now the best part is this keyboard is under $100. This is now during their pre-order sale, which is ending on December the 5th. You will be paying 89 US dollars for the Coral Switches version and 99 US dollars for the Jade Pros version. But they were also very kind enough to send me the wrist rest, which I do feel is worth the extra bit of money. But if you do want to stay under that $100 price tag, just get the keyboard. Now I will have a link to this in the description. Thanks so much for watching, take care, and peace.